So did you know before or after you were with your gurus that what they had is what you already had?
Well, I knew that they said that stuff.
But I know that, but I mean, like you're telling us, but I mean, when did you really realize it, I guess?
Well, the realization happened when it happened, 25 years ago, I guess now.
Yeah.
But it's it's like I always knew, but I didn't know I knew.
Mm.
You understand? So it's like all of this was like, duh. But, because there was that sense that I always knew this. I even had the feeling when Baba and Ramesh were talking that I always knew what they were saying. I knew it. They were just here to remind me of what I already knew. But I didn't, I was still trapped. I was still trapped in believing in this world, in believing in my thoughts and my actions, having ownership and having a connection with myself as a person, you see. And that only goes with grace. And hopefully, so I know that Ramesh threw enough concepts at me, and I worked on them enough that they did some major erosion into this sense of me, and that sense being solid. So the me became weaker and weaker, and more and more. So, there was a friend of mine who, the latter stages of my sadhana, within the last year, was noticing a difference in me. And she was bound and determined to find out what it was. And so, one day we were out on Maui, a nice place, and she was like drilling me. She goes, okay, let me understand. So do you feel like a more positive self-esteem? And I said, no, actually, I feel less self-esteem. You see? And so it was just eroding away. The idea of me was becoming more and more flimsy through the stuff that Ramesh was teaching, through the stuff I had learned from Baba. It was just becoming more and more flimsy and unsustainable, this idea of me being something, you see? Even though I had a whole lifetime of programming and conditioning, holding it together, this sense of me, and it was so strong, it was hard to imagine it falling apart. But it was getting weaker. It was getting more and more weak, that sense of me. And then gradually, this was the last year, so it just really became unsustainable. And at the time I was writing the night writings, and I was writing, the poem I Am came. I think that was really the moment of the true, what Ramesh called the understanding, which it is not. But, it's nothing that can be said, but still. So that when it just sunk in at that point, and even then, it was, in my case, it was subtle. In Baba's case, it was fireworks. But in my case, and I guess Maharaj said, it tends to be subtle in many cases, and he said, and those are actually the cases that are most likely to last. But who's to say about that? But still, in my case, it was not what I was expecting, And it was not where I had, it was not, I had signed up for something much more spectacular. I had put whole decades of work into this, and this was just like, okay, yeah, so I get it. I love myself, fine. I love everything, fine. Everything's fine just the way it is. Great, you know? And it was just really simple. And I didn't even know that that extended to other people. At the time, it was like I could say about it. All I can say is I feel at peace with myself. And getting together with Kelly was actually an experiment to see if it applied to other people as well. Turns out it did. But I didn't know. And so it was, it really wasn't a big deal. And it was a very big deal. So it's difficult to, you know, there was a short time when I remember it was a big deal. And there was a short time when it was like, wow, look at that. But, you know, the one who would have found that extraordinary wasn't there. So it just wasn't, no one got to celebrate, you know. There were a few days maybe where there was a little bit of elation, but, you know, it's like what Mark described, one of Ramesh's enlightened disciples, he said, it's like you've been walking around your entire life with 100-pound backpack on. And you sit in the field, and as you get up, the straps come off. And you stand up, and you jump, and you go, Jesus, this is great. I feel light as a feather. Look at this. This is great. And you start jumping around and running, and you enjoy like the lightness of not having a 100-pound backpack on. But he said, it's like that for a few days. And then after that, it just felt normal not to have a 100-pound backpack on. So the thrill was gone after a few days. But you see, the thing is, the one who would really be excited about it is gone. Mm. That one who would have really, really, really enjoyed the enlightenment is gone.
That's so ironic.
It is. It's really a raw deal for the ego.
It is, yeah.
It's almost like he was the backpack.
Yeah. Well, you see, yes, indeed. Indeed. Well, you know, the old Ramesh story he used to tell, where he said, going for enlightenment is a lot like going for $1 million. You go for $1 million, you apprentice with someone who knows business, who knows how to run it, you learn everything, you work really hard, then you start applying what you've learned, start your own thing, you work really hard, you make your contacts, you put in your hours, you hire people, you do this, you do that, and then you look at your bank account and look, sure enough, there's $1 million. Let's celebrate. He said, going for enlightenment is exactly the same. You study, you meet a guru, you study, you learn what you need to learn, you go through, do your disciplines, whatever it is, you do all those things. And then the enlightenment happens. The only difference is there's no one there to celebrate. That was Ramesh's description of the difference between going for $1 million and going for enlightenment. So